going to keep waving until the computer tells me no. It doesn't look like there's anyone here yet. Say hello. Oh, there's one person. Say hello if you're here. Hello, hello. Today we will be discussing So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, which is the fourth book in the trilogy in 5 parts of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So yeah. Just in case there is anyone out there who is watching it back who doesn't know who we are or what's going on, I thought we might start by going around the circle and just letting people know who we are and what our channel is and anything else we feel like telling people. So I'm Mel, and this is obviously my channel, a book thing named Mel. And if you have not subscribed, please do so. And if you have not subscribed to my amazing co-hosts, please do so. All their channel info is down below. And this is my, like, I don't know, 5th time reading these books, something like that. So I'm quite familiar with the story. But I've only read Mostly Harmless maybe once, so I'm excited to read that and have something a bit different, a bit, for me. But yeah, that's me. You have to excuse me, I'm feeling a little bit groggy. I've only just woken up, so it's not super early, but it's 8 o'clock in the morning, so I haven't had coffee yet. So we're still not firing on all cylinders, but yeah. So yeah, who wants to go? Shall we go that way?
My way? Okay. I'm Ashley. I don't know why it says Ashley's Media Addiction because I just remembered that is not my channel name anymore. It's Ashley Third, so sorry about that. But yeah, I am Ashley. I recently changed my channel name from Ashley's Media Addiction to Ashley Absurd, but I still do book content, I do movie content, I do music content, I do dance content. I am going to be doing some solo traveling content. So I thought my channel's probably best to kind of adapt its name a little bit more to kind of incorporate everything else. So if you're interested in basically anything at all, come to my channel because I will probably have something of it. But yeah, it's been good. I read pretty much everything I can get my hands on. In all honesty, I watch pretty much anything I can get my hands on. I have a dog who you probably just heard, and I'm from Scotland, and that's pretty much all I can think of to say, really. I don't think of anything else, so I'm going to pass it down to Ash.
Okay, well, I'm Ash from the channel Ash's Emergency Books. I've been on YouTube maybe 3 years now. I've only recently sort of taken a semi-break because I started a new job about a month ago, so that's pretty much taken up all my time. But I pretty much do bookish content. More recently, I'm trying to move into what I like to do, so reviews on TV shows I like. There's one I'm working on at the moment, which I was going to do in January, but it's now May, so you can tell how well that's going. But yeah, I'm based in Australia as well. I'm based in Queensland, which is way above where Mel is based. But yeah, that's pretty much the summary of my channel.
I'm in Tasmania, so we're basically at opposite ends of the country.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it is me. I am Chelsea from Chelsea Jow. I just have my channel name as my name. I mostly do book stuff, but I also have like some video game content sometimes. My kids show up quite frequently as well, so we have some family stuff on there. I've been on BookTube for almost 7 years now. And so, yeah, I thought this was a really cool idea to do the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books because, like, I started reading them a couple years ago and just never finished. So it was my first time reading the So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. And I'm really excited that we're, like, going to finish this. Like, it feels like it's been a long time because I know it's been, like, 4 months so far, but it also feels like it hasn't been a long time. Like, it's one of those, like, weird, like, middle moments, but, like, we're almost there. It's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. How did this happen?
How
did the time go like this? Yeah. I feel you. Hello, Jasper. We have Jasper joining us. Hello. Putting a shelf together while I watch this. I'd say it's maybe a 2.5 stars for me. It wasn't a fan. Fair enough. What was it that you didn't enjoy in particular, or just the general vibe? I guess that brings us to the book, which is what we're all here for. So yeah, I guess we should kind of have a bit of a chat about what everyone what the hosts thought of it. I'm gonna go last because I need to think about how to formulate what I thought. So yeah, any volunteers?
I gave it 2 stars. This is my least favorite of the series so far. There's so much that I thought was pointless, and just it didn't add up to anything. And I was like, okay, we're going to get somewhere, and then it didn't. And it was like, okay, and then like most of the cast that we know weren't there, and I was like, give me something. And then I was hoping for a bit more plot, especially in terms of whatever her name is. What's her name?
Fenchurch or Trillian?
Fenchurch, that's the one. And then he just kind of appeared, and then we never really found out the significance of her at all. So I was like, oh, okay. And I don't know. This one really wasn't for me. I think this is my least favourite of it so far. I'm really having high hopes though for Mostly Harmless, which is like the last one. But I'm scared because it's kind of went from a 4-star for the first one. Then I've had a couple 3 stars, and then I'm at a 2-star, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like scared at this point.
Fair enough. Chelsea or Ash?
Sure. I gave it a 3. I think it's one of those things where because it was so different, I had like mixed feelings about a lot of things, or like there was some things that I did enjoy and then others that I didn't. Like I liked that we were going back to Earth in a way, even though we never really got concrete answers. And then I wasn't too sure how I felt about the fact that, yeah, we had Fenchurch introduced, but we really didn't have Trillian or Marvin or Zaphod. Like, so it just felt like very, very different tonally and everything from the rest of the stuff that we were reading. So even though each book doesn't really connect as well, like it's not like one overarching plot, obviously, it just felt very removed in a way. Like I was liking a lot, but at the same time I was almost hoping for more.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll say I'll put my hand up and say I haven't finished it. I'm probably about halfway through it. To be fair, I only did start it last night, about 10 o'clock at night, so it's probably not an ideal time to start.
You mean you didn't stay up all night to read it for our live show?
I was falling asleep at midnight, so I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get through this tonight.
That's fair.
Morning. From what I've read so far, I'm probably opposite. It's more my second favorite, apart from the first one, because I've seen the movie that many times. I will say I feel like this series doesn't know what it wants to do with itself. It's kind of hopping from one plot point to another each book. So we'll focus on one thing, one book, and then, okay, no, we're going to forget that now and go to the next point. And for me, that's it just feels unfit, unfixed, incomplete, not complete.
Incomplete.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, it just feels like he had all these ideas and just sort of mashed them together. I'm like, here you go, there's a book, done. But I will say this is probably my second favorite out of the 3, because it feels like a lot more is happening than in the other 2 books, but that's just me.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's sitting on at least a 3 at the moment, from what I've read.
I thought it was just boring and forgettable. The Mice Cow and The Rule of the Universe were at least memorable and fun in their respective books. This one just didn't hit the same. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I gave it 4 stars, but that's mostly because of Adam's writing. I really like the way he puts sentences together. If that doesn't sound too, silly. Yeah, I like the way he writes, and I like his kind of humor. That's always, I think humor is the kind of number one thing that he's trying to get across. So, yeah, maybe at the expense a little bit of plot. I gave it 4 stars, but I'm kind of torn with this one. I remember it's been a while since I read the books, and this was my favorite. For most of the time, this was my favorite. But yeah, I feel like I've kept saying throughout the whole read along, oh, it kind of comes together at the end. And maybe I'm thinking of Mostly Harmless, although I don't remember very much of that one because I've only read it the one time. But I feel like I was expecting there to be more of a wrap up, and then it wasn't a wrap up. So I don't know whether I've just, I don't know. I don't know what I did in my own brain. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed because it didn't wrap things up and it didn't connect things as much. But again, I wonder if that is to do with kind of how it started, because it started as the radio show, and I don't think it continued. I think it kind of had a few episodes which were then the first 2 books. And I don't think that the radio show ever got this far, or maybe it just went off in a totally different direction. So I don't know. I agree with you, Ash. I don't know whether he ever actually had like an overall plot, or whether he was just doing a bunch of humorous things that kind of then got put into a storyline. He is capable of it. The Dirk Gently books have, like, they have their own proper, like, start, middle, finish, inciting incident, all the things that you need for a book. But yeah, I was a bit, even though I gave it 4 stars, I was a bit disappointed by this one. I think that was my own expectations, though.
Yeah, just not the same as what you expected to feel.
Yeah. And I don't know in the past if maybe I was less of a critical reader, or if I just kind of went along for the ride. I don't know, but yeah. Anyway.
So I had to look at my books. My book has, like, if it has, like, the episodes and stuff, and it doesn't say this one does. This was published in Britain and the USA in the autumn of 1984. They've effectively contradicted everything to date, up into including itself. But it doesn't mention any, like, episodes for this one.
Yeah, so I feel like this one was kind of tacked on at the end a little bit to kind of try and, because obviously it tries to kind of brings Earth back, and it tries to kind of explain that a little bit. And, Fenchurch and the guy that lives in the Inside Out house are like some of the few people, along with Arthur, who obviously experienced everything, who know that something weird actually happened, and that it wasn't whatever the CIA or whatever whatever was told about the Earth being destroyed, and that something actually happened. But yeah, it still doesn't feel like that much of a wrap up. But I don't know, maybe, I think mostly, it should say in your book as well, Mostly Harmless was published quite a long time afterwards. Like, I don't know if maybe he was contracted to write like a finale, or whether he was like at kind of, a few years later was like, you know what, I really should write a proper finale, or be interesting.
Just says that this one should have been the last book in the trilogy, but then it doesn't say anything about the one afterwards. So
okay,
could be that he was told to wrap it up in a way.
yeah.
Because I feel like we keep getting so many, like, subplots, but then nothing ever gets wrapped up in any of them, and it's left so wide open every single book. which for me is really frustrating. As like a very plot-driven reader, I'm like, where's where's my conclusion? I need some form of conclusion for something.
Yeah.
But saying that, we did sort of get a conclusion in a way to the second book. The one where it asks about, like, where they say about, oh, well, God has, like, left a message on the planet. And then it was, like, good cover. So we did actually get that sort of final conclusion, finally, for that. So we did finally add up a tiny part from, like, one of the previous books, which was good, but I feel like I need a lot more wrapped up. Like, I feel like I have too many questions for me to be happy. I'm like, I need the answers. I'm one of those people who like everything wrapped up. So the fact that everything's like so wide open is just like, please give me something. Like, anything.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping for a little bit more in the last book, because I think it's maybe just like, maybe some planning issues of like, we've had little things being answered, but not enough bigger things to like feel completely satisfied. So like, I'd be very curious exactly what the last book is going to try to tie up, because they've brought back some of the stuff that we've had questions for, like Earth and stuff, but we never got like the explanation for it. And so I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but like, I would be very curious to see, because I actually really liked the part where Ford was looking at the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's like all of a sudden all of his stuff was there from like the notes. Like, it wasn't just mostly harmless anymore. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like, tell me more. But we never really got that next bit of like answers.
I actually love that part where Ford then goes, I'm rich! I love that so much. That was so my humour. It was just him being like, oh, I'm going to have like 20 pence essentially, and then being like, oh, I'm going to have so much money. I was like, I love this for you so much.
He did put in a lot of work, as it turns out. So he deserved that, even though like he spent most of the books trying to not do anything.
Yes.
Jasper says, I think the best part of all the books was the little asides where it talks about a random planet or something. And Marvin, he got done dirty in this book, to be honest. Yeah, we definitely needed more. We needed more of the other characters, and that's what I don't remember. That's what I'm hoping happens in Mostly Harmless, that we come back and we do wrap up Trillian and Zaphod and Marvin.
I feel... Oh, you can go, Ash.
Oh, that was
Chelsea,
sorry. No, you're good. I was just gonna say, I really do like the asides that they have, and so I was hoping for a little bit more. I feel like we got a little bit more in this one, but the first two books had the most actual like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy bits and stuff, and I always thought those were like very inspired from him as a writer, even because they're so different than like humans on Earth, and so I miss those a little bit.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those as well. I think that definitely adds something, and kind of, I think, is the point of the series a little bit, is that it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that maybe that's what he was actually wanting to write. But yeah, it's interesting that he doesn't continue with that very much in this one. But maybe that's because it's all so much on Earth, and we know about Earth. But I agree with you. It's interesting to see how like people from other planets view and think about things. So I'm being stared at by a cat, just sitting on the bench like, your breakfast is just there. Oh, she's stalking me. Anyway, so I didn't write down any plan about what this live show would, what to talk about. Sorry guys, I'm a bit useless at the moment. But yeah, so I guess we've kind of talked about how we found the book and what we liked about it. Do we have any predictions for the next one?
I have no idea because every book is so different and I never get answers. So I'm going with nothing. I'm like, it's just a blank slate at this point. I know that there's going to be Arthur there. Maybe Ford. I don't know at this point. Maybe. Like, I don't even know who's going to be in it at this point. Because I feel like we keep getting less characters as well as the books go on. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but like the first book, we obviously had everyone. The second book, Trillian basically ran away and done her own thing. The third book, we basically had less Sappho, I'm sure. Like this one, we basically got rid of like everybody. So I'm like, who's left? Like, who are they actually going to talk about in the final book? Because everyone keeps disappearing very slowly.
Or will they do a cast reunion?
That would be better.
That would definitely be better.
I don't know how everyone else felt, but I felt quite disappointed in the way that they had done Ford, because Ford's personality done like a 180. Like, it got to the point where I couldn't tell if it was Ford anymore or Arthur, because
I felt that in the last book too. I felt like they were very similar in the last book as well, the third one. So I feel like they have been maybe just not as different as like Marvin obviously has a very unique voice, or like Zaphod is a very like more of an over like very like loud character, you know, like he has a very big character personality. And so I have been feeling that more and more, that Ford and Arthur feel very similar more than like in the first book.
Yeah, I agree with that. Which is strange. Like, I don't know if he just kind of got bored of writing one of them, but like, I feel like as a character, Ford was more interesting, but but probably Arthur is easier to write about.
I feel even with Ford, he was like so bubbly and he was like so like wacky and out there, and now he just isn't. And I'm like, I know that he's like lived through a lot at this point, but like, I feel like his personality is just completely gone. Like, it's just kind of a bit disappointing for me, because I actually really liked Ford, and now I'm just kind of like, oh, if I can't tell you apart, because I'm reading it physically as well. I'm not listening to the audiobook, so if I'm starting to not be able to tell the difference, there's a slight problem in there.
I was gonna say, in the audiobook though, the one that I'm reading by Martin Freeman, they sound the same too. The way that he does both characters is very close to his original accent, so it is actually quite hard to even tell them apart in the audiobook as well, which I think also, at least for me, has been helping the whole, they feel like ever since book 3, they've just been feeling more and more similar, because they sound similar too. So that the audiobook would not help you at that point.
I wonder if their experience on Ancient Earth together kind of made them more similar, like in terms of the actual characters, not just. I couldn't be bothered writing different characters. I wonder if it was like part of their intentional development.
It could have colored their adventures a little bit. They were the only ones that had to do that.
Yeah, and I think that was hard for Ford because he didn't have the guide. He didn't have all of the things that he couldn't hitch. He couldn't, so he kind of was stuck there and kind of had to be a lot more like Arthur in a way of like just kind of plodding along and going with whatever was going on. I like this comment from Jasper that I was on the phone with my dad and I was telling him about the dolphins. How the dolphins didn't hit as well as the mice. He deserves a medal for that because he had no clue what I was talking about, but he listened.
Oh,
what a nice dad. Does anyone have any thoughts about the dolphins and how that all went down?
I was disappointed because I feel like that was kind of my thing with this book. I just felt a bit let down, but it was more the fact that I felt like we were going to get more, because obviously like all the dolphins are gone, and so we're like, okay, so what's happened with the dolphins? And it's just like, thanks for everything, and we're like,
Bye.
Mhm.
What?
But why? But
That gives
what?
us nothing. I was so confused.
Yeah, I
It's
feel like part of that could have been because they actually mentioned the dolphins in the very first book about how like humans think they're one of the highest intelligent species, but there's also the dolphins and like that kind of thing. And I think because of that, we're now 3 extra books later, so like book 1 to book 4, there was just not enough continuation of the dolphin thing. So like if you really
Yeah.
wanted to get a little bit more knowledge about it, it's from the first book. So I almost would have appreciated a little bit more, just even like bringing back in the, even if it was the exact same thing that he said in the first book, but just to bring it a little bit more relevance into the fourth book. Because yeah, it's like what the only people that cared about the dolphins missing were the people that wanted to save the dolphins in the first place. Like it was a very like small sort of, like most humans just don't seem to care the dolphins are gone. And so like it wasn't like as big of a deal, but it also was from book 1 to book 4 of having that knowledge of like they're actually very intelligent and they knew the earth was going to be destroyed, so they left. But we didn't really get, like, I wish that would have been like reiterated a little bit more in this book.
He does talk about the fact that he does talk about like the dolphins every time they were doing tricks or whatever was actually them trying to tell the humans that something's coming and you need to run away basically. And that kind of they just ended up being like, they're not listening, they're not getting it, we gotta go, like, so long and thanks for all the fish, like, you bunch of morons.
I did think it was clever having it on the fishbowl, though.
Yeah, that
like,
was really
I thought that was clever. I did actually like that. I thought, because it took them so long to figure that out as well, it was just quite a nice touch, and how like each of them kind of had their own fishbowl. That was quite a nice touch. But I do just kind of wish they'd give a little bit more, even about where the dolphins even went. Like maybe like a hitchhiker entry sort of thing there that just kind of has about the dolphins. Maybe even do like a nice little touch just to give us that little bit more about, okay, so here's where they went, or this is how they knew this was going to happen, whatever.
No, that would have been a
that
perfect hitchhiker entry. That would have been perfect.
Definitely. And maybe even like it would have been cool if the dolphins were from somewhere, like it went back to their home world or something. Yeah, that would have been cool. But yeah, it is a bit disappointing that it's just kind of like, and it's even like the name of the book, and yet it still doesn't feel like a full plot line.
No.
But I think I wonder if maybe it was just a bit like some of the stuff that he's done has been like very kind of British humor, in that like it's kind of that underhanded, dry, like aside. But some of it's been a bit more like bludgeon you over the head. And I wonder if it was just that like it was a bit subtle. He wasn't like Zaphod. He wasn't just hitting you over the head with this ridiculous thing. So it was kind of a bit hard to realize what was to really care about it, because it was just kind of, it felt like an aside, but really it was, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. It's interesting how the books are kind of put together, because they don't feel cohesive. And yet so many people love them. They're so popular and well loved, and yeah, so I don't know if it's like, again, if it's just that people love the humor, or if it's just that it was so, because I don't know that there was anything like that at the time, like anything with that real satire of like society and the way that we live and stuff. So I don't know if it was that made it so popular that people were kind of like, oh wow. I mean, I'm sure there was, but like as popular and as well known and as yeah.
It makes me think of like Star Trek and like Doctor Who and things like that, which were really popular in the 80s and stuff, where you have like different episodes for like different things. So like sometimes they're not even overarching, they're just like, here's separate episodes of like the same sort of characters. And to me, that's what Hitchhikers kind of feels like. It doesn't feel like it's all together. It feels like it's like separate episodes of like maybe like a show or something, but just not wrapped up in with like a definite ending, which I think if that's kind of the way he was planning on doing it, he maybe should have given a little bit more of an ending to be like, okay, so this is like book one, I don't know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, here's like the round off. Okay, we're on book two, this is kind of like the round off. So it's like completely like separate books from each other.
Yeah.
I even think even if he'd done it kind of more like that, I probably would enjoy it a little bit more, because it keeps leaving it so open. I keep hoping in the next book we're going to get those answers, and then it doesn't.
We don't.
And I just am then left with more questions.
Yeah,
And I think that's kind of what's kind of throwing me off a little bit with the series.
That's fair. I do feel like the cricket was wrapped up quite well.
Yeah, you weren't here for the last one that we talked about, but we did actually talk about how Cricket was supposed to be a Doctor Who episode that never aired, and so Douglas Adams was then allowed to use it in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. So I think that one, besides the original Hitchhikers, is actually one of my favorites because it did have more actual plot to take it through, even though we did still have a little bit differences in characters and differences from like, it didn't really feel super connected from like book one to book three, but I do think because it was originally going to be something else, at least those aspects were tied up better. Which I just thought was interesting. It was supposed to be something else, and then he was like, hey, you're not going to use it, I'll use it.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
We all agreed on that. I think we all agreed that the third one was a little bit more plot driven, or it felt like we had a lot more plot, which we all kind of liked about it.
Although we would have liked it to have been related to the first two books as well, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I find interesting is how it's, like I said, it's so episodic, but they don't. I guess they connect via the characters, but they don't.
But
because
the characters are missing now.
Yeah,
You don't even know what they are.
See, I almost think also because like Arthur's obviously the main character actually tying everything together, but if it would have been also even just set up as like each book is a new like tragedy that befell Arthur, and here's this like crazy thing that he had to go through, and we got a little bit of like it's all just like misfortunes that happened with him, and it even if it wasn't like an exact reason, but we knew it was like for some reason he's the person that's causing everything, I think would have been like that would have been the tie for everything too. Like I don't know, there's just something about that I'm like, he's the main character, so that could have worked too, but you know.
I do kind of like that we got Fenchurch though, because I feel like if we didn't add in a new character somewhere, I feel like this book would have slowly driven me insane, in all honesty. So I'm glad that we did get Fenchurch. I actually really liked her character, and she seemed so interesting at the start. But then I don't know about you guys, but she seemed to kind of just dwindle off a little bit. We had so much of her, and she was so relevant, and then just suddenly she started to go more and more in the background, and I'm like, what happened? Like, where'd she just go? I'm so confused.
Yeah, I liked her at the very, very beginning when they introduced her. I mean, and not the very beginning where she was unconscious in her brother's car and it was a little bit weird, but like the idea of she knows what's going on and people have been labeling her as crazy or, you know, whatever it is. Like I liked that, but then we never got answers. And I didn't fully love the fact that Arthur was so focused on trying to get in her pants. Like it just felt like she was there for that reason, even though she could have had so much more because she actually semi knew a little bit. And I was just like hoping for her to like be brought in as more of a like, let's solve this, or, you know, something like that. But like, did we really need flying sex? Like, not so much. Just saying.
No, but I mean,
the erotic readers went, in like the 2020s.
It's not a spicy scene or anything, but it was just, it felt very out of left field. The only funny thing about it was the lady that saw them outside the plane. I did appreciate that part.
Yeah, I
but
like that part.
I don't know. It just felt like he was stalking her.
Yeah,
And
it was
so
a
like
little.
that, it just made me a little too uncomfortable because he feels very like a normal man, and then to like basically be stalking her for just no real good reason. Like he didn't even seem to care that she knew the Earth was blown up.
Mm.
He just thought she was pretty and there was something about her, and I'm just like, is this something because she knows space things? No.
Yeah, no.
So
I actually forgot about her being basically unconscious in her brother's car.
it was a very interesting introduction. He's
Yeah,
like, oh
and
my
then-
gosh, this woman is beautiful. She's knocked unconscious. She's not aware of anything. I love her. Like,
yeah, it was definitely a bit creepy. Yeah, Jasper says Arthur was a stalker. I felt uncomfortable for a good bit of it. If I were Fenchurch, I'd be creeped out and probably pepper spray him when he showed up at my door.
exactly.
Exactly, yeah. Got a few other comments from Jasper. Did like God's final message to humanity. I thought that was funny. To be honest, that's probably the only thing I really remember. My dyslexic brain had to write it out to figure out what it said.
That was hard on audio. I was like trying to piece it together.
Not gonna lie, I'm not dyslexic at all, but it took me like 5 turns of reading this.
Same.
Like, slash. Okay. Because I was just like, what is this saying? It's just so bizarre.
I was in the car driving and I'm like trying to concentrate on what letters make what words. I got there eventually, but that's how I listen to audiobooks. I drive in my car, take Presley to school, pick him up from school. That's how I get my audiobooks in. And so I was like, what is going on?
No, I just meant you were trying to concentrate on driving. It would have been quite the trick.
I think for it, it's not even because it's not even put together well. It's more the fact that it goes, so the first letter was W, the second an E, and then there was a gap. An A followed by a P, and then an O, and then an I. And then Marvin paused for a rest. And I'm like, what? Just put it.
Too many words, yeah.
There's too many spaces in between that. I need you to kind of say them together. Even I was like, so it started with A, P, O, whatever. Like, why'd you make it so difficult to decipher? So I fully get that.
As Arthur gradually got used to the crazy stuff, it got a little less fun. That's true. I think part of the fun in the first one was him freaking out over everything, but it makes sense he would get used to it. Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to give him an excuse, maybe that's why he wasn't like totally dumbfounded by Fenchurch knowing stuff, because he was like, yeah, weird things happen all the time, man. Of course you knew stuff. But it still is a bit creepy that, like, really?
I liked his way of explaining gravity. It's like, how can you fly? Just don't fall. Like,
yeah.
Okay. And how do you do that? I love the fact she was like, and how do you not fall? And he's like, well, don't even think about it. And I'm like,
what? Isn't that all you'd think about if you were told? Like, but as soon as you get told, don't think about it, don't worry about it. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Thanks. Now it's all I'm going to worry about. Yep. Just don't worry, or just don't worry in general. It's also my favorite. Just don't worry. If I could possibly make that happen, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Oh dear. So how are people feeling? I suppose we should probably wait till we read the final of Douglas Adams' books, but how are people feeling about potentially reading the Owen Colfer one?
Well, no matter what we decide as a group, I'm going to read that one because I like Owen Colfer's writing in general. And I'm very curious, no matter what book 5 ends up like finishing as, like, what is that one other thing? Actually, I think, was it this book? They mentioned something about like, oh, and another thing. And I was like, that's the title of that extra one. So like it came in, like they took it from this book. But yeah, no matter what, I'm going to end up probably reading that one just because I'm very curious, like, what an author that I personally like would do with this sort of like random stuff that we're currently going through. Like, I have no idea what this next book is, but I'll end up reading the 6th one.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like at this point I might as well. I feel like I've pushed myself this far. I might as well hold out till the very end. Because
Yeah.
otherwise I'll be like, oh, why did I stop one before the end? Like, also, I think maybe with a different writer, it might work a bit better for me. I feel like Owen usually, I've only read a couple of his books, but usually they actually, finish. So I feel like I might actually like his one. I might be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, so if we actually had a finish, this is how it could have ended up. So I think I will read it, just kind of see maybe a different perspective of it. Because as you know, like you get like ones like Stranger Things where you get like different authors, or Doctor Who books, or Supernatural, etc. We get different authors, but it's all like different stories. But you can really still feel that connection. And I feel like Owen might do that to a way that I personally like. So I'm willing to try it.
Well, and Owen Colfer's done a Doctor Who book, actually. So,
Okay.
yeah.
that was not
Yeah, the
intended.
collection of like the 12 Doctors, 12 stories. He has one of the stories, and then he's done like middle grade and YA, and I think some other adult stuff too. Like I've read quite a bit of his stuff, so I do feel like because of the Doctor Who one that I read from him, he is able to keep characterization, like you said, like with different fandoms, they'll have different authors, and so yeah, no matter what, I'm gonna read it just because I like his writing style, and I'd be curious to see what he would do with whatever characters he ends up using for this series. So
I've never read any of his books, so I don't have any particular like attachment to Owen Colfer. But I think at the beginning I think I was a bit like, but it's not Douglas Adams. But I think I will read it because it would be interesting to see, what a different author does with the storyline. Jasper says they bought the box set, so I'll read Mostly Harmless, undecided on it, and Another Thing. Leaning towards no, since I probably wouldn't have got past the second if it weren't for you all in the box set. That's fair. That is fair.
I mean, I'm not going to buy the sixth one. Like, I'm going to borrow that from the library, for sure. Or I'll use an Audible credit because I have started using Audible. But I feel like it'd be weird to just do the last one on Audible, whereas I've read all the others physically. So I feel like I'd have to read it physically at that point. But yeah, I think it will be good to kind of read that other one. Hopefully you can tie things up even more, like of things that maybe Douglas Adams has maybe forgotten about, because maybe that's why he wrote it. He was like, you know what, see all these unanswered questions that are just rolling about in my head. I'm finishing it off for him. Because I don't know about you guys, but there's some books I read and I'm like, you know what, I could have wrote this ending a little bit better. And I feel like maybe that's what he done. He was like, you know, this ending, this is the ending now.
It needs to be properly finished.
I can't deal with all these unanswered questions.
You would hate. I just read Leave the World Behind, which is it's a Netflix movie now. And you would hate that. It has nothing explained, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I watched the movie, and yeah, I'm just like, okay, I'm glad I watched the movie instead, because I don't think I ended up looking up like what's the difference between the movie and the book, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't miss anything, because I need something at the end too. Yeah.
I thought the movie was better. I think it's the kind of thing that, I don't know, like Station 11 is like awesome. I really enjoyed that, but I think overall it's I don't know, dystopian can be so like hit or miss. I feel like movies that kind of media, like screen has a bit more for that kind of thing that you can use, if that makes sense. I think it worked better on screen, and I think they explained more than the book. So there you go.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was not necessarily something that I normally would have picked as a movie, but it was new, it was on there, it was based on a book. I was like, let's try it out. But yeah, I don't think I would ever personally read the book.
I did it for book club. I have a book into movie club.
Okay.
So we read the book and then watch an adaptation and kind of compare and contrast sort of thing.
Ooh, speaking of, we should do that movie for
we
this
should.
one.
Yeah.
Because I love the movie. I think it'd be very interesting to compare and contrast, especially if we do still have people that have never watched it.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. I don't know how, because I don't know where it is. But we can figure that out.
I think.
I mean, I have a DVD, but I don't know if that's going to help anybody.
Same. I think we haven't talked about one of the big plot points of the book, which is Marvin.
I was like, remind us what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like in the actual book, like the one that we just read, we haven't actually spoke about Marvin, and I feel like that's quite a big part that we've kind of glossed over. I only just remembered it when I was thinking about the movie, and I was like, oh yeah, Marvin.
Oh yeah, that giant robot
for like a paragraph.
Yeah, he turned up.
Yeah, never long. I thought his scene was so unnecessarily sad. Like, his was painful to read in this book. Like, it was basically just watching him die, and I was like, what? Yeah, but that's like forward to Ash.
Poor
basically just I was just like, I was like, they literally had him as the best character to just stuck.
Well, and I think it was worse because they had that whole little like chapter 25 or 26 or whatever it was that was like explaining everything that I feel like a lot of criticism was about, of like, we wanted to know what happened on, you know, prehistoric Earth. We wanted to know what happened between books. And it's like, oh, well, you know, it was between books. We're not going to talk about it. And then they had the whole like, and if you like Marvin, skip to this chapter. And then that was the scene we got. And I was like, that was even worse. You're baiting us, letting us know that Marvin's going to come back. And then that's what you give us.
And then it's for that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty mean. That was pretty mean. Poor Marvin.
He's my favorite character as well. So I was just there, just like, oh,
why?
Yeah.
Why? I feel so sorry on him though, because he has like the best brain, and all you can see is, oh, they've changed everything about me, but they can't change this one part I've been aching for like millennia for. Like since you first saw me on a ship. The same part of me's been hurting for all this time. And I'm like,
I really felt that. Yeah.
Poor Marvin. Douglas Adams even admitted that Marvin is the best character, but he only comes in the last chapter and dies. I'm sure he wants to stay dead, but if he isn't in the last book, I will be sad.
Yeah.
I at least want a Marvin funeral. That would be good. Like, bring the cast back for a Marvin funeral. I'll accept it, because at least we get some Marvin. Like, memories of Marvin would be nice. Like, I don't know. I just want Marvin.
They all get together for Marvin. I don't think Zaphod would be someone
He would be like, who's Marvin?
Yeah. Yeah, he does not care at all about, well, anyone, but particularly Marvin.
Well, they did say in this one that he got rid of one of his heads.
So and he's married to Trillian, apparently. I don't know how I felt.
No,
and he has a child, and I'm like,
it was too quickly mentioned. Like, I was like, it was one line, and I was like, wait, that's all we got? You're not going to explain yourself?
Yeah. I don't know that I like that either. Like, Trillian deserved more than, well, any of the blokes in the books, to be honest.
Maybe Trillian and Fenchurch can find each other.
Yeah,
that would be better.
That would be good. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's not. But they would be more accurately suited to each other.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like they basically just went, they've been stuck with each other for so long, she gave in. I feel like that's because he's been wanting her since before she even got onto his spaceship initially. So I feel like she just gave in. She was like, you know what? Like, my planet is destroyed. I mean, stuck with you. Why not? Like,
well, and the Earth is back now. The Earth is back now. How come they're not concerned? Come on.
Yeah, why are they not? Like,
Zappa probably never told her. Let's be honest.
He probably doesn't even know how to read the news about it. Come on.
But Trillian was the smartest one. Like, surely she would have figured it out. Like, because she did go off for a little bit, didn't she? And was kind of like, no, I've got to go and do stuff. But yeah, she only went with Zaphod because he was from outer space. And she wanted she wanted away.
So,
oh.
Yeah.
Classic spin-off with Trillian and Fenchurch. Get the petition going.
I would read that book.
I want the Adventures of Marvin. He's been through so much. I feel like an Adventures of Marvin, where we just see different parts of his life, would be incredible.
There you go. There's 2 spin-offs. So Jasper's going to write the spin-off lesbian love story between Trillian and Fenchurch, and Ashley's going to write the Adventures of Marvin the Martian. I mean, not Marvin the Martian. That's a whole different thing.
That's Looney Tunes.
Sorry.
I was going to say, isn't that a cartoon? Like,
it is.
Yeah, no. It's still, I haven't had coffee yet, so still brain is not quite there.
Not working yet.
Yeah, no.
I could just imagine this Marvin meeting Marvin the Martian, and it just being chaotic.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
Oh, and I did check on the movie. If you need a streaming service, it is on Hulu right now.
Okay.
Also, remember, different countries have different things.
I know. It's on my Hulu right now. According to IMDb. So I don't even know how that... I mean, I did check it. Like, it's on there. But, like, I always use IMDb to, like, double check what streaming service is the right one. Because it'll have everything. I think it's except Disney Plus. I think they have, like, a thing where you're not... Like, they won't set up the fact that it's on Disney Plus or something like that. So I'm assuming if you're on IMDb, maybe it'll also take into consideration where you are. Because I've been using it for forever. I'm probably like logged in under me, so it knows like where I am.
Usually if you Google, it'll say as well.
That's all right. I'm sure we can do some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of just Discord chat channel while we watch it. We don't necessarily have to be all watching the same thing. We can all.
And I've never done a video one, but it sounds like, Mel, you have, so I'm sure you can figure out whatever you think the best way to potentially do that.
I've done it on Netflix with a Toy Buddy. But you do, to do that kind of thing, you do need everyone to have the same source. And because this is a bit of an older thing, I'm just wondering if it might not be easier just to everyone source it themselves and we just chat about it in Discord because when you're watching it, you're still just typing, and the comments disappear. So it would just be a matter of having it on whatever screen that you're watching and then potentially checking Discord on your phone or whatever. Yeah. Which I would be fine with personally. It's been great chatting with you all, but I got to go. The shelf is making me mad. Oh, no. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope that the shelf starts behaving itself. And, thank you for joining us. And we will see you next month for Mostly Harmless.
Penultimate book.
The penultimate book, exactly. I feel like we may have come to a natural conclusion anyway. Sorry, distracted by Peanut being cute. So did we want to maybe log off and finish up? And we'll figure out in the Discord when to do movie watching and stuff.
Sounds good.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. Sorry that I was a little bit all over the place. My brain has not quite woken up yet. But thank you all so much.
I'm going to start heading to bed because I work in the morning.
No, definitely.
All right. Well, I will end the stream and then